Hey guys, welcome back to Fix It Friday, the weekly YouTube series where we talk about video game console repairs, mods, and restorations. So this week I have a kind of retro console. This is the Nintendo 3DS, specifically the 3DS XL. And this is just an awesome model. This is the version that has the NES kind of layout. It's got the right kind of buttons and the controller overlay here on top. I really like this model. So yeah, I wanted to fix one of these, and this one I think probably was in some kind of a flood or something like that, because it does turn on, the screens work, the games work, and all that kind of stuff, but it definitely must have taken some kind of damage because the batteries don't charge. So you can put in a fresh battery and it'll just run until it wears out. If you plug it in, nothing happens. But if you take that same battery and put it into another 3DS, it'll charge no problem. So it tells me something's bad with the charging circuit on here. And so, there's more than one way to deal with this. You can either try to figure out what's wrong with the charging circuit and replace that. It's not something I think that I know personally very well. I don't think it's too well documented. And so rather than do that, the good thing about these portable consoles is that they're super modular, and you can very easily find 3DSs out there that are broken in some other kind of way, like a bad shell, or maybe one with a bad top screen or bottom screen but a perfectly good motherboard. And so if you put together a couple of these, you can actually assemble several working units. And so that's kind of what we're going to do today. So I managed to grab this motherboard here, and this is from a 3DS that was absolutely trashed and obliterated, but the motherboard works. I know that I can power this on and it's totally fine, and I can also charge batteries with this, and so I'm pretty sure that this will be a suitable substitute. So yeah, what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you guys how to take these apart. Surprisingly, this is basically the only two tools I need, so not very much, and we're going to replace that motherboard and see if we can get this thing running again. Okay, let's get to it. Okay, so to start, all you got to do really is begin with taking off this battery cover, and that's simple. You just remove these two screws here, and you just pull this off, and from there we're going to take the battery out, and there's like a little notch here for your fingernail to just grab and pull it out. And then once those are out, then you'll notice that there's a couple of screws here. These are all Phillips screws, so it's really nice that Nintendo decided to get rid of the tri-wings for the 3DS XL, and so that makes things much, much easier. So we're going to go ahead and just take those guys out real quick. Okay, so those are all the same size. There's a little black screw right here in the cartridge slot. And then there's two hidden ones here underneath these rubber posts, and you can just use like a fine set of forceps like I'm using right here, and you can just kind of push, and then they just pop right out, no problem. And now we can get these guys out. Alright, so that's it. So those are all the screws. What I like to do with this first step is keep all of those guys together, because they're all part of that first step, and that will help you to work backwards and reassemble this thing. Now, when you remove the lid, you have to be careful, because there are two ribbon cables that are attaching the trigger buttons to the motherboard. So you don't want to be rash here. You want to take your time. You also want to check and see if there's an SD card. If there is, oh look, and I have one. Got to take that out. Once that comes out, you can just angle it up like this, and see here and here, those are the little ribbon cables for the L and R. You can just take your little fingernail and just pry these guys off. No big deal. But again, if you rush that step, you will totally break that stuff. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is start taking apart the case, and I'll show you all the various little ribbons that you've got to disconnect in order to make more progress here. Alright, so we're back, and I just wanted to show you guys something that kind of confirms my hypothesis that this board somehow got wet, got some kind of water damage. It must have been very mild, because I don't see any signs of rust or anything, so that's great. And I haven't gone past the motherboard yet, so hopefully it's just minor. But still, the way I know that this definitely got hit with water is this little sticker right here. So normally, if you look at a 3DS, this sticker should be white with little red dots, but you can see that it's all generally kind of pink, and so it turns color like that when it's exposed to water, and so that's a dead giveaway that this board, has been exposed to some amount of water. Again, it doesn't mean that your board is trash when you see that, because sometimes it can have water exposure, but if it gets removed quickly, or if it's somewhere where it's not going to do any real harm, then you're okay. But yeah, clearly something happened here and the charge circuit is messed up. And rather than trying to figure that out, and because I have a spare board, I'm just going to go ahead and do a straight swap. So, getting to that topic of a straight swap, getting the screws out of the 3DS is actually very simple. So you'll notice that all of the screws have a circle around them, so it helps you identify them on the main board. They're all the same size, so that makes things simple too. I think there's like 10 or so. There's like 2 down here. This is the bottom of the board. And then there's also 2 right over here, or I'm sorry, 4 over here next to the SD card slot. So yeah, 10 screw posts total that you have to pull out. This here is the joystick, and the analog stick rather, and you can see that there's actually 2 spots over here, so there's 2 long screws that go there, but they're the only ones that are that size, so it's easy again to keep track of everything. So yeah, I went ahead and I started removing those, and so now we're going to go ahead and start removing cables, and for that we're going to go back to using the forceps, so I'm going to kind of show you guys how to do that. So first I'm going to take this joystick out, which takes a little bit of force because it's attached to the stick. There we go. When you flip this over, you can see that there's a little retaining clip here, and the way that these work is that you lift them up away from the board like this, like just move it forward. So you can do that with your fingernail. I find it better to use either a pick or a fine set of forceps like this. And then with your forceps, you can just pull that out. And then I usually close these back because it's so easy for these flaps to get caught on something and torn off, and then that's the end of that. It's not like you can replace that. There's a lot of other connectors like this guy here. This one has like a bail that you push up, and then again you grab it and pull it out. And like before, you can use your hands here for this, but I don't recommend it. It's too fine, and it's easy to damage stuff with your hands, whereas with the tweezers with the forceps, you have way more control. Okay, so that's 2 of these flat flex cables gone. You can see there's actually a 3rd one here. We're going to get to that at the very end. So yeah, from now I'm just going to keep moving around the board and popping out these flat flex cables. I could have potentially left that one in there, but that's okay. Okay, so here are 2. These are for the bottom screen. One of them is for the touch sensor. That's what this ribbon here is for that. And then we've got a larger one here. This is for the screen itself. So yeah, I'm happy that this screen is totally perfect. Okay, didn't need to find any of those parts. I just had to get a good board. Over here, this is the microphone. You don't have to bother with removing it. I mean, you can if you want to, but it can just come off with the board. This is the Wi-Fi module and the antenna. So again, you don't have to take this out. You can just kind of twist and disconnect it from its socket, and you can leave it here, and we're just going to reattach that to the new board. All right, so now there's just one more thing to disconnect, and I'm going to zoom out, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so I actually had forgotten one more flat flex cable. I'm going to try with my fingernails. Oh, stubborn. There we go. Okay, so final flex cable is right here. This one is the most annoying to reinstall as well, but I'll show you how I do that in a few minutes. Okay, so now this original board is totally free, and yeah, so I'm going to just zoom out real quick, and yeah, you guys are going to be able to see how everything looks. And thankfully, the screen does look fine. It doesn't look like any water made its way back here. There would be rust or something on the screen. I don't see any of that. And again, I know the screen works. You'll also see over here in the corners, there's these little, like, I don't know what they're for exactly. I think they're just for structural support, these little plastic pieces. These can easily go flying and get lost, so just keep an eye on them when you're disassembling. But yeah, at this point, we are ready to go, and we're going to start reassembling the the new screen and seeing how things go. I'm sorry, the new motherboard. And yeah, then let's see how things are. Okay, so the first place to start is where we just finished, in this little corner here. And so there are 3 cables you have to attach. So it's like super annoying. But with the tweezers, it becomes a lot simpler. So I'm gonna do my best to show this on camera. Hopefully I work on it. But yeah, you take the top 2, you pull them away, because they're gonna go on the other side. And then we're going to be connecting this guy here. So you can see that the gold contacts, they go up and they go in. Really, the only way to do this properly is with a set of tweezers like the ones I have. So you just come in. This might actually be easier for those of you who are right-handed, and I am not. I'm left-handed, so this can be trickier for me. But I've gotten decent enough at it with my right hand. So yeah, you just gotta kind of come in. Yeah, I see how I just pulled it up. You get the, and you see how there's like these brown little pieces to the ribbon cable here and here. You want to make sure those are nice and flush with the bails. And so this one is fully inserted. If you don't succeed, then when you plug everything back in, the top screen won't turn on. So, you know, just bear that in mind. It doesn't mean you broke the screen. It just means you didn't insert this ribbon correctly. So yeah, so we're all set with that. So now I'm going to go ahead and flip it over and install everything back. But yeah, when you're doing this, be mindful of the fact that there are all these ribbon connectors. They go underneath the board, so you have to make sure you find all of them and make sure that they're up here where you can gain access to them. Okay, so we're going to keep doing that. Alright, so that's the last ribbon cable. So what we're going to do now is we're going to install this this guy in here, and what you want to do is you want to make sure that you center everything, and when you push down on this, you want to feel it go into that little hole there, which lines up the analog stick with the actual controller, with the actual joystick controller. So that's all set. So I'm just going to lock this in place real quick with one of these. And then the only other thing I wanted to show you guys was the sticker on this guy. So if you look over here, you can see this one's all white and it has little red dots. And that's how it's supposed to look when there's no water damage of any kind. So be mindful of how it looks when you guys are opening these things up. The only other thing too is you want to make sure that this slider here is actually locked in. And I don't know if you can see there's like a little tab here, now it's moving. So you got to make sure that those two are aligned properly, otherwise this slider isn't going to work correctly. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the reattachment of the screws in the case off camera, because that's pretty much straightforward. And yeah, we'll give this thing a test and see how it's working. Alright, so I've reassembled this thing enough to do a test. So let's go ahead and push the power button and see what happens. Alright, any day now. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so it looks like all of the connecting of the wires was successful. Everything is plugged back in the way it's supposed to be. I gotta test the charging capabilities, but I'm fairly certain that those are fine because I got it to charge in its previous remnants of a shell. Alright, so I think this one was a success, and yeah, hopefully you guys found this useful. I think if you get a lot of, you know, like on eBay, for example, of a few broken 3DS, you can, you know, really put them together and sometimes make quite a number of units. And this is nice if you don't own one and you'd like to get one for an inexpensive price. The 3DS is great. There's tons of awesome games on it. It's fully compatible with the DS, so it's a great thing to have in your collection. Alright, so if you guys like this video, then you know what to do. I'd appreciate it if you could give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I've also opened up my own website recently so that you guys can buy modification services from me and also pre-modded consoles, it's oneuprestorations.com, and I've got the link in the description below. Alright, so yeah, thanks again guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!